Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Nature Journal Show. In this episode, we're going to talk about the top five, in my opinion, top five nature journaling techniques for 2025. And get your stuff ready because this is participatory. Top five. I'm going to just say NJ techniques. Don't get it confused with New Jersey. For 20. Oh, bubble letters should have been one of the top five techniques, but I forgot. There's a certain amount of arbitrariness to any list like this, so take it with a grain of salt. Top five nature journal techniques for 2025. Okay, first one is writing down your intentions and being clear about your goals. Now, I know some people are going to be like, what? Writing in my nature journal? A lot of times the nature journalers get very focused on the drawing part, which is understandable. I mean, look at all these fun drawing tools we get to mess with and stuff like that, and it can be more creative, and a lot of things in nature seem so visual, right? Well, writing is really useful too, and that's why I think number one nature journal technique for 2025 is writing your intentions. I know that might sound boring or woo woo, but I have a couple prompts to help you out. And I think that really this is the way to figure out where your energy comes from for nature journaling and the real reason why you're doing it. And this is just going to help you out a lot in the long run. So I've got a couple prompts here that I wanted to share with you. And so I'll go straight to that. The first one is, what are the experiences in nature that you never forget? You can screenshot these or come back to this video recording later and actually do these. I'm not going to give time for doing these right now, but these are just a couple prompts to help you get clear about what your intentions are. So, number one, what are the experiences in nature that you never forget? Take some time at another moment to actually go through and do these. I highly recommend it. It will help you out a lot. Next is, what is a direction in nature journaling that looks really challenging to you now, but you can't stop thinking about? This is another question. And the idea with this prompt is just to, again, help you get clear about your intentions with nature journaling, which is really going to help um, you figure out what is the engine, where is the energy coming from in your nature journaling. So you can come back to these later. I'm just sharing them with you right now. What is a direction in nature journaling that looks really challenging to you now, but you can't stop thinking about? And then prompt number three, what is your growth edge, bread and butter, and juice? These are three terms that I came up with maybe 4 years ago. Um, and I think they are useful. So, growth edge is sort of like the last prompt. What are the things that are still a growth edge for you in your nature journaling? So, for example, for me, I would say accurately drawing mammal faces front on, accurately drawing human faces, incorporating more numbers, more measurements, and being consistent with my metadata. Those are all growth edge. So these are the things where you still have a lot of room for growth. It takes you energy to do these ones, okay? It takes energy. Maybe nature journaling in public for some people could be one. Drawing animals, if you only draw plants and you realize maybe there's a mental block there, maybe drawing animals, moving animals, birds. People are afraid to draw fast moving birds in the field. Those could all be examples of growth edge. Bread and butter, this is what you do all the time. It's your staple, it sustains you, it's what you spend most of your time doing when you go out in nature journal. For a lot of people, it could be like drawing plants, could be your bread and butter. So knowing what your growth edge is, knowing what your bread and butter is, and then lastly, knowing what your juice is. Your juice is the one nature journaling activity that just it energizes you. It could be nature journaling with other people. It could be nature journaling plants. It could be nature journaling with certain colored pencils or certain ink tool. Like maybe this ink tool, every time you go out and nature journal with this pen, for whatever reason, it's just like super fun and it gives you enough energy that you have extra energy left over to go home and wash the dishes. So that is your juice. So that's juice, bread and butter, and growth edge. And understanding what those ones are is going to help you with this number one technique for nature journaling in 2025, which is writing your intentions down and getting clear about your intentions. And then the last prompt I'm going to share with you for this is still number one. Um, this is still technique number one. This is just a prompt to help you with your intentions is what type of mental states do you want to experience while nature journaling? So it's really, really common to be like, oh, I like nature journaling plants, right? And we say that phrase without necessarily knowing what we like about it. And what it might turn out to be is that what we like about it is that when we nature journal plants, we get lots of positive feedback. This is a possibility, right? Or we get a page that looks beautiful in a certain type of way. That is a type of mental state that we might be seeking. But what does it feel like when we're actually doing that type of nature journaling? How do we feel? Um, this is another way to think about what you want and to create goals and get clear about your intentions with nature journaling is understanding what are the type of mental states that you want to experience while nature journaling. Like, do you want to be in that really focused state? Things like that. Oh, I see people commenting, and I was so busy with these banners popping up with fancy words that I didn't see. Sandra's here and Margot's here. Yay! Okay, so those are all those intentions, right? So let me, you can do these, you can come back and do these prompts later on your own. So let's go on to number two, nature journal, top nature journal technique for 2025. So this is number two. There was a lot of numbers, sub numbers in number one, so that might have gotten a little bit confusing there. Number two is going to be, and I've mentioned this before, comics. I made a video about making nature journal comics like 4 years ago on the Nature Journal show, and I'll put the link to that in here in case you want to go digging through the crates and seeing, oh yay, Hashi is here too. How are you doing? I hope everything's okay. Or you're, adapting after everything that happened with the fires. That's so crazy. Here is a link. I know these aren't really easy to copy and paste or anything from there, but I did a video about comics, nature comics, quite a while ago, and we're going to make one right now. So I think comics are one of the number one ways to tell a story. So they don't have to be funny, they don't have to be cute, they don't have to be well drawn, but they can still tell a story. So we are going to, I'll give you a couple examples and then we're going to do one right now. I don't know if I have any examples in this journal. Okay, so what happens is a lot of times in nature, things happen, really cool things happen, and we don't actually get it in our nature journal. All we have are like the cute little flowers that we're drawing. So say I'm drawing, this is like a white sage plant, Salvia apiana, and I'm drawing it. I'm like, I know where this is going. I'm gonna write my questions down here too, and this is gonna be like a perfect nature journal page. And then so I start drawing this, and I know like where my words are gonna go, where I'm gonna put the Latin name and all of that, and then suddenly a Cooper's hawk flies down and kills a California towhee right in front of me. Okay, and so I'm watching that, I'm like, "Wow, that's crazy." And then what do I do next? Do I just go back to my white sage drawing and just keep drawing, um, white sage and pretend like nothing happened, or, take a picture of the feathers of the dead towhee on the ground and not do anything else? Or should I try to incorporate what I just saw into my nature journal? Obviously, if you can, try to incorporate it into your nature journal, because what you just saw is amazing. So, for example, you can do these sometimes afterwards, and they don't have to be multiple panel comics. They can be a single panel comic. It could even just be like practice drawing a cartoon version of yourself, um, looking like really surprised or something. And then this would still be better. At least you could just write in here, a Cooper's hawk just committed murder. Oh, let's say killed a towhee. That is another kind of bird. Those are both. Cooper's hawk is a type of hawk in California. In a lot of it's in other parts of North America as well. Um, and towhee is also another bird. And so, at the very least, you could get something like this on your page, so that later when you come back, you'll remember that story. Obviously, you could get more into it if you wanted to. Arrows are really helpful, so I'll maybe make an arrow, and then maybe I'll just make a silhouette of the Cooper's hawk. And look at how simple I'm going to make all this, okay? And then maybe I'll make like I'll use a little bit of visual vocab. So that'll say, bam. Oh, I should have used my other pen for that. And then over here, I'll just put a, kind of mad at the towhees. They've been digging up all of these wheat seeds that I planted. Wheat with a T on the end. YouTube, don't demonetize me. And X's through the eyes. So there's a fair amount of symbols that you can use. And symbols can be really helpful. But look at what happened. This could have just been a nature journal page. Like, I don't want to, talk poo-poo about the Edwardian lady diary, nature diary style of nature journaling. There's a lot of benefit to it. But like, if she saw a Cooper's hawk, or whatever they have over there, kill another bird in her backyard while she was doing her Edwardian lady botanical drawing, I want to see it. And I think her pages would look way cooler and be way more interesting to me if those were on there too. Um, and maybe she did stuff like that, like I shouldn't, I shouldn't, jump to too many conclusions. But I think a lot of times we get so focused on our focus that we aren't able to capture these stories. And comics is a great way to do it. Highly recommend it. A lot of bang for your buck there with the comics. Hashi, I'm so sorry about your house. That must be so crazy. I wonder if you're doing any writing or creative stuff to process some of that. And it sounds like you're in a pretty cool temporary house right now. Skulls and Dinosaurs sounds good. Okay, so, and we're going to be, I think, the experience with the fires in Southern California this year is going to come up in number 3 of my top 5 techniques for 2025. So hang in there and we'll get to it. Comics could work too. Okay, so number 3, however, is collage and junk journals. So you've heard me talk about this before, and I've been practicing these techniques a lot. Newspaper clippings. We're living in mythical times in terms of human history. There is just all kinds of absolutely bonkers stuff that is happening, And so, maybe sometimes cutting something out of a newspaper and sticking it in is one way you could junk journal. Another thing you can do, and I taught a whole class on this at Wild Wonder, and I think you can still access the video pass if you want to take this class with me. But look, here's a page that I did during that class. And what you can see here is, I've taken a map, I've ripped up a map and glued it in. So if you go nature journaling at a park and there's a map that comes with it, you can glue it in. Here I've glued in two different other types of papers. Here is an isometric graph paper, which is really good for showing things in 3D, like these gopher tunnels. Here's black paper, which is really good for drawing stuff that's pale colored, like white mushrooms, white flowers, spider webs. So you can see how I've attached a variety of different types of papers, glued those onto one paper in my nature journal. That was a whole class on junk journaling and art journaling techniques applied to nature journaling. Here you can see some more. This is like a pressed flower that I've attached in. Here's another example, and on this example you can see some of these pressed leaves. These are leaves that weren't even pressed at all. They were just stuck inside of tape, stuck inside of masking tape. One of the least sexy of all art supplies. And I used to cringe in fear and disgust, fear and revulsion when I saw people using masking tape in their journals. And that's because I was way too precious about my journals and my journaling. And I think for me, this whole junk journaling thing, it's a huge unlock. It can make you realize, wow, I can just use some masking tape in here. And if you can get away with that, you can get away with anything. And I think it just opens up your creativity a lot more. And for people who have that problem with being too precious, these kind of junk journaling techniques are super useful. And I think trying them in 2025, just getting a little bit more loose with it, especially if you have some of those perfectionist tendencies. So I'm going to make a little star here, and I'm going to write for perfectionists. And under comics, I'm going to write for people who really like nature journaling very slow. Very slow, oops, and non-moving subjects. Spice it up with comics. Number one is good for everybody. So this is the stuff that it doesn't just, figuring out your intentions and getting clear about that. That's the stuff that doesn't just get easier with time. Your watercolor technique and your ability to, notice things in nature, those get better automatically with a lot of experience. But some of this mental stuff, it's really the hardest part, I think. And this collage and junk journal is also going to help you with that. Yay, thanks for sharing that. I do find if you can go to the libraries when they have those book sales, and or sometimes you can get like magazines. There's certain things that have really good ephemera that you. The only problem with that junk journaling and scrapbooking stuff is you start saving all kinds of little scraps of paper, and so that part can be a downside. So I did find a lot of fun little pieces of books in different languages, and like you can get anytime you travel in a bureaucratic country where they have all kinds of paperwork. I used to hate all that kind of stuff, but now it's like, ooh, save it for Sandra or use it in my own nature journal. And this was like, this was from, I bought some candles. The candles came in there. This is from sardines, which I eat a lot of on my budget, and bus tickets, This is from a box of matches. So you end up developing this very large pile of random pieces of paper, and then that's when you have to be a little self-aware about it and go back to your intentions. All right, both Sandra and Margot were on the Andes to Amazon Ecuador nature journaling adventure last year, so there's some inside jokes going on. But that was super fun. It was great being there with both of them. Okay, number 4 is point your journal at real issues around you. So, a lot of times people, in nature journaling, it's really easy um, to point your nature journal at butterflies and ferns. But it's not as easy to point your nature journal at yourself or at like the weeds growing in your backyard for most people. Point your nature journal at your I'll just put point your nature journal at real issues. So it's much more common, I feel like, if you average all of the people nature journaling, um, it's much more common for us to go online and find pictures of stuff growing somewhere completely different from us and nature journal that than to nature journal some of the things that are directly around us, like for example, like what we ate for breakfast, or like what are the fruit and plants that you eat, things like that, or what are the things growing in your backyard. So there's that part. Did I get that right? Point your nature journal at real issues around you. So it's very, very important, I think, to remember that there's probably something happening. It's really easy to read about like the Amazon or like these crazy places. And, I like to go to those places, but there's so much stuff to nature journal right where we are. And right now, at this time in the world, especially if you live in North America, there's a lot of stuff that's happening that's endangering some of those natural areas around you. So, what a perfect thing to point your nature journal at. Um, so, I've got a couple things on this one, a couple subpoints. And the first one is that you are part of the story. And I think, unfortunately, the diaries, the nature diaries of the Edwardian lady, have and that whole period and lineage of thought has had a big influence on us. And one of the false tenets that their worldview was based on is that it's possible to observe things objectively and be an objective observer. And this spilled over into social sciences such as anthropology. It's spilled over into all aspects of the life sciences, the physical sciences. And little by little, they've realized with each one of those that objective observers are not really possible. And starting with the social sciences first, most obviously, and then coming all the way down to like basic physics practically, it's not possible for there to be objective observers. And so when we go out in nature journal, it's really easy, and I have this in a lot of my pages. It's really easy to do a page where you just see something in nature, an animal in nature, just represented there by itself, and we don't show anything about me or how did I get there? Did I drive? Here's an exception where there's a person involved in this one, but it's really easy to just show nature as separate from ourselves. And so you are part of the story, and figuring out how to get that into your nature journal, I think, is really important. Getting that personal aspect. So maybe doing a comic, and you could write like, this is me. Also, your story and your questions are needed today more than ever. So, for example, if you're noticing weird smells in a local park where you always nature journal, like what is that smell? And maybe following your curiosity and learning what's going on with that park in your neighborhood. Or what are those signs? Or what is that? Here's the classic one. When you see the orange paint or the spray paint on the ground with like the different letters and stuff, or you see that orange tape and those sort of flags, that's a sign that your nature area is about to get some kind of construction going on in there. And if you're nature journaling somewhere and you see that, maybe point your nature journal at it, draw the flags. I know they're ugly. Draw the wreckage, the trenches, whatever. And this is something that I did recently with the episode, Can Nature Journaling Save This Tree? Maybe you saw that one or not. I'm going to put that into the comments. Oh, hi, James. James is here. Have you drawn that garbage mound? That would be very, very interesting. Nature journaling garbage. That's such a great example. Thank you, James. So this is the classic example that doesn't show up in the diaries of the nature diaries of the Edwardian lady, is where is the garbage? So where is where are the piles of garbage, and why don't we want, I know at first, like aesthetically, we're like, I don't want to point my nature journal at that, but this is where you can come back to number one, which is figuring out what your intentions are. So do you want to nature journal that pile of garbage that has been growing, or where your county dump is, and what would you get from that experience? All right, I'm sort of falling behind on some of the comments here, but thanks. Great stuff going on in the comment section tonight. So yes, your questions now are needed more than ever. So that's number 4. And then finally, number 5. Number 5 is recombinatorial. So this kind of blew my mind last summer, recombinatorial. And I had done a little bit of this, but then I realized that this is one of those places in nature journaling where it could just go into a million directions. So recombinatorial journaling, this is when you take the pages out and start like mixing them around, or you go back and cut up previous pages. So for example, and this, if you showed this video to me 4 or 5 years ago, I would freak out. But here are pages that were pulled out of a totally different journal. These pages were pulled out. So, and look, I have numbers on my journal. I'm not messing around, right? I have page numbers in most of my journals too that I've written in. But these are pages that I pulled out, and what I'm really interested in experimenting with is taking these out. And the crazy thing is, with this spiral binding, you can just rip these out from one journal, and all you have to do is push them. Especially the heavier the paper, the heavier the paper stock, the better this works. But you'd think, oh my gosh, it could fall out. Like, what if you shake it? It's gonna fall out. I've actually nature journaled in some pretty extreme situations, including up in trees with journals that had pages that were inserted in this way, and they didn't fall out. Look at that. Okay, all right. So that's the first premise, right? That it's physically feasible, and in some cases very easy to pull pages out from one journal and just stick them into a completely different location in another journal. Okay, so that's premise number 1. All right, so now the next premise is that there's a potential utility or interestingness to this. Well, one thing you can do that is not quite as revolutionary but still very interesting is if you carry multiple sketchbooks, this is very useful. If you carry multiple sketchbooks, at a certain point, it might get annoying that you have, oh, look, this is part of my Costa Rica trip. This is when I was in the market waiting for my breakfast, and I decided to draw this hallway instead of just looking at my cell phone. If you want to put that into the page where you were still in Costa Rica, then it's really easy if you cut these out and you save some space and then you tape them into there. So there's practical ways you can do it. And then once you start pulling these pages out, you can actually, once you start pulling these pages out, you can actually start doing more creative and weird stuff with them, because you can basically use them as if they were your own pages were scrapbook ephemera. So this is also really helpful if you're using a couple different kinds of toned paper, or any variations in paper color at all, because look at how you automatically get that interesting contrast there. So this is something that I taught in one of the things that I taught in that class at Wild Wonder, but there's a way that you can put these in so that you don't waste any space. You're basically creating completely new space, so you don't lose anything here, because at first I thought, oh no, I have to glue these in, and then what if there's a good drawing on the other side? Well, right now I'm going to show you the way to do it if you don't want to lose anything. You actually create extra space in your journal. So you use some of this Scotch tape. Wonder about us. What brand is that pocket sketchbook with toned paper? It is Stillman and Byrne. And this is, I think Nova series is what they call all of their toned papers. So they have 3 different colors of toned paper. They have gray, they have black, and they have that tan color. They also have sketchbooks that contain all 3. I would be putting affiliate links to Amazon to help with your shopping experience and make 0.01 cent off of each purchase at no extra cost to you. But I'm currently beginning a boycott. I'm gonna try not to buy anything from Amazon or any big companies, big tech companies, especially in the next few days. So what I recommend is go to a local art store near you and ask them for Stillman and Byrne Nova series. And I think this size is what is this size? It's like the I think there's a ruler on here somewhere. Is there a ruler on here? It is like, I don't know, 3 by 5 or something. 3.5 by 3.5 by 5.5. Soft bound. I think the quality on all the Stillman and Byrne products has gone down, unfortunately, a fair amount in the last few years. Especially the Alpha series, the big sketchbook that I mainly use. But look at one thing I noticed is on this sketchbook right here, there's like this weird bump. Something weird got stuck underneath the cover here. Also, something to be aware of is this cover material feels nice. It's sort of like a faux leather, but it reacts with natural leather. So like I tried to put a natural leather cover on one, and it reacted, and it did this whole crazy thing, got all sticky and melted. So I had to take the whole cover and sort of create a whole new scrapbook binding cover on it. All right, so also currently for my Patreon members, there's a traveling art toolkit, and it includes a sketchbook that is that type of sketchbook, and it also includes the whole art toolkit with some gouache and different watercolors that people can basically how it works is it's like a chain letter gets mailed from person to person with all of the different supplies there, the little mini palette, the sketchbook, and then each person gets to experiment with it and then mail it to the next person. Okay, someone on Instagram made the comment that instead of cutting, you could Xerox copy or take a photo and print out and attach it. That way the original will still be in its book. Yeah, that is a really good point if you want to maintain these. For me, I'm totally fine with getting rid of these because I like to keep everything in these big ones that I can organize. These oftentimes just get lost completely behind. But really great idea is to instead of cutting something out, you could Xerox it, and then you could do all of the same techniques afterwards. Art by Mira, thanks for that really good point. Sometimes I can't see all the Instagram comments. So, okay, so that's the recombinatorial journaling. I think it has a lot of potential here in 2025. Try it out. One thing that I'm going to be experimenting with is I'm going to be creating a phonology wheel. So a lot of people are like, phonology wheels are so cool. And what's the other one? Perpetual journaling are so cool. But for people who don't always have the same sketchbook with them, that could be really hard. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a phonology wheel on an extra piece of paper. Look, I have a sticky note to remind me. And then I'm going to go like this. And now when I finish this sketchbook, my phonology wheel is going to be on here. Actually, let me write it. I'm going to make a video about this coming up soon, so stay tuned. I'm also going to interview Vivian, who is the one that sort of blew my mind about the recombinatorial nature journaling. She went back through all of her nature journals from the last 3 or 4 years, cut them all up. And this goes back to Art by Mira's, question or tip. So this lady went and she cut up all of her journals from the last 4 years, which seems crazy. So those originals are done for, right? And then she repasted them and recombined them in different ways into a new journal. And so that just kind of blew my mind. And it goes against sort of what Art by Mira is saying about like you're destroying the original, but it's really amazing. And I think revolutionary nature journaling or journaling in general technique. So I'll interview her later and you can see what she's done with her journal. So this is going to be a phonology wheel and it can go in here for now. I can start it, but then when I finish this sketchbook and fill it up, it'll be really easy to take this page out and move it to my next sketchbook, and it could move through like 3 or 4 sketchbooks that way. So just think of how this could apply to your nature journaling. Maybe there's something that you could write down on a page, like maybe some of your top nature journaling ideas or whatever, and you can rip it out. And especially if it's a little bit stiffer paper, obviously this only works with this kind of binding. There's other ways you could do it. You pull that out and put it into your next journal. So when I finish with journal number 62, I could put it into my next one. So that's tip number 5, or top nature journaling technique for 2025. So that's all 5 of them that I have tonight. Let me make sure I'm not missing anything. Thanks for joining in. Thanks for those who joined in on Instagram and YouTube and LinkedIn. Okay, bye everybody. See you later. Stay tuned for more on this recombinatorial nature journaling and hopefully some stuff up in the trees. Bye everybody. Bye.